Hey guys, can you hear me? Great. Awesome. So as people are logging on, I saw a couple questions there. Is this going to be recorded? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, testing 1, 2. Let me make sure this sound thing is working. It was working before. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. There we go. How was that? Is that better? How was that? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I just saw that I had it muffled. Good. Great. Awesome. Okay, we're going to get started, guys. Welcome. This is the first seminar of a series of 3 seminars, and I'm going to break down the endocrine system and try to make it as simple as possible. And what we're going to do is it probably will ask questions as we go through, but there's so many people on that it's going to be hard to go back and forth. I won't get anything done. So this is going to be recorded, no problem. And then I'm going to make it really easy, I'm going to send you the notes in the morning, so you have all the notes, because somehow I don't think I could send it with an attachment. I have to send it to your email. So I want to send the notes to everyone who watches this, not to the people who registered who didn't sign on. So whoever's on this webinar will get the notes as well, okay? Now here's the problem. The problem in, when you go to a healthcare practitioner or even a doctor is they'll look at your blood test and they're going to look at, oh, you have this deficiency of hormone. Let's go ahead and give you a hormone, okay, like the thyroid hormone, or maybe growth hormone, or maybe estrogen or testosterone, bioidentical hormones. The problem with that is that every time you take a hormone, you inactivate the gland that makes that hormone. So you weaken the system over time, and then you become more dependent on that hormone. But they don't really look at the whole picture. They don't look at what's behind it. So I want to really touch on that. So the first part of the seminar is just to kind of give you an overview of the endocrine system as a whole so you can understand it and think with it. And then I'm going to dive into parts of the endocrine system in this section, and then next week and the following week. It's a very large topic, and I basically have too much information, of course, in this presentation. I'm going to try to cut it down. I always have too much information, so I don't want to overwhelm you with data. So I'm going to try to kind of take bits and pieces that are important and practical and things that you can apply. I want to talk about the parts of the endocrine system that show up the most, and then show you how you can use this. Like, for example, with your fatigue, what hormone is that? What's wrong with that? How can we get more energy? That type of thing. So I'm going to make it very, applicable to you, and not just kind of go through hormones for the sake of understanding hormones. So there's so many different hormones, you'll just like go to sleep if I cover all of them. So we're going to cover all the different glands, but we're going to kind of give you a summary, and then I'm going to dive into very specific things that I think are important. So in this presentation, we're going to definitely talk about the adrenal and also the pancreas. But as it relates to other things, because it's when you have one hormone, it can affect this and this and this. So you'll see as we go through this. So let's see here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my PowerPoint presentation. Let me go right up here and pull it up for you. Okay, good. Now let me just, here we go. Perfect. All right, so the endocrine system, what is it? It's basically a communication system, and the nervous system is a communication system. The difference between the endocrine system and the nervous system is that the endocrine system uses hormones to communicate through the blood. And what happens is that the glands are unique in that they make hormones, but organs typically don't make hormones. Some of them do. So that would be the difference between a gland and an organ. Glands make hormones. Now, what's a hormone? A hormone is a chemical message. It's a trigger. It's a communication. It's sent from one place to another. So the whole thing about hormones is that, and glands, is that it's trying to create an effect at a distance. So the gland makes a communication. It's sent over across the body through the blood, and it kind of connects into the cell like a radio wave. Like if you're in your car and you turn the radio and you can tune in different stations and hear different music, the exact same thing with the body. So that hormone might have like 15 functions, but if it connects into, for example, let's say estrogen connects into the ovary, it's going to tell the ovary to release an egg or make an egg. Okay, but let's say that estrogen goes to your hips, it might say to make fat. So the purpose of a hormone is to trigger something in it's called the target organ or the endpoint. And it's just a group of cells that have already pre-programmed functions. And so basically the hormone triggers this little program that then the cell does the work. Okay, and then once it does the work, then what happens is that the cell then basically activates the function, does the work, and then sends another signal back up to the original gland to tell it to turn off the message. So we constantly have this on-off switch, back and forth, back and forth. So you can see it's a little bit of a communication cycle. Now, this is what the connector looks like. The receptor in the cell receives the hormone, and then what happens is that hormone, once it's received, activates a whole chain reaction of things. So, and that's important because you have like tons and tons and tons of little receptors in the glands that can receive hormones. The problem is that these receptors can get blocked. They can get interfered with. They can get blocked with chemicals that mimic hormones. They can get just downgraded and they just don't work anymore, like in insulin. Like if you have a high level of a hormone over a period of time, like let's say you have insulin that's high because you're eating too much sugar, that receptor that receives insulin is going to stop receiving it. Okay, so it's just kind of like if, let's say you're married and your husband's there, and let's say the wife tells the husband to take the garbage out, right? And he doesn't comply with that. The wife might continue to communicate in a higher volume, and if that message is ignored. So anytime a message is ignored, the communicator starts to increase more volume. And so this is what happens in diabetes, is that you have all this excess hormone that's not getting into the cells, it's not getting into the blood, and so you have something called insulin resistance, where you have symptoms of high hormone on one side and low hormone on the other side. And so it's really, you test the blood, you have all this insulin, but it's not working. Okay, so it really has to do with the communication. One part of the body is rejecting or not wanting to listen, and so there's just more shouting. So I guess it would be really similar to, you ever talk to someone who just will not stop talking? They just go on and on and on, and they're doing that because they're not really being listened to. So really the same thing happens in the body. So that's what a receptor is. And then we have the last piece of the puzzle, and that's called the hormone feedback loop. So in the body, you have these circuits, which means circle or connectors. It starts at the brain, and it comes down into the body at different levels, And it's a chain reaction of communications. And so once, let's say the brain tells the thyroid what to do, once that's complied with, a signal is sent back to turn off that communication. So it's a very complex but very simple, because if you look at like your blood tests, and let's say you have high levels of a certain hormone, then you can kind of see what's happening. The feedback loops are not getting around, or it's not coming around and completing the circuit to turn it off. It's very similar to when you talk to someone. If they acknowledge you, then you feel heard, and then you can stop talking. Okay, so same thing in the body. Now, here's this. This is interesting. Did you realize that hormones are made out of protein and cholesterol? That's right. So your hormones are made from cholesterol, and this is what I want to kind of talk about this, because sometimes people freak out about cholesterol, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so bad and everything." But did you realize that every single cell in your body makes cholesterol? Your body makes 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol every single day. Your liver makes 2,000. So the rest of the body makes another 1,000. So that's 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol. And I basically just figured out how much cholesterol that is. 4 sticks of butter, 14 eggs, or 333 strips of bacon. That's how much cholesterol your body makes. That's incredible. So the next time you're at your doctor's office, and he says, "Oh, we got to get your cholesterol down," ask him, "Well, if the cholesterol is so bad, why does the body make so much? Why does it make 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol?" And just see what they say. Because the cholesterol is on a feedback loop too. So if you actually eat less, your body makes more. If you eat more, your body will make less. I eat a tremendous amount of cholesterol in my diet. I do 4 eggs every single day. I do cheese. I do bacon. You don't have to do that, but what's happening is my liver doesn't have to make as much cholesterol. But I have people that have no cholesterol in the diet, and their cholesterol is off the charts, simply because their body's trying to make more. And so, especially all the different steroid hormones, the ones that actually are the adrenal hormones or even the thyroid hormones. I'm not talking just about bodybuilding. I'm talking about a lot of the hormones that are that you're dealing with right now are steroid hormones, and they're all made from cholesterol. So when you're under stress or you're going through menopause, you better have the raw material to make these hormones. So I'll give you some cholesterol facts. Consuming cholesterol has never ever been proven to cause heart disease. You might want to write this guy's name down. He's an amazing researcher. He wrote a book on cholesterol myths, and he's like seriously like researched, and he does massive research in the literature, and he condensed all the studies, and he actually shows you what they say in a simple way. Fascinating. So there's 2 things. One is that consuming cholesterol does not cause heart disease, and then consuming cholesterol does not increase your cholesterol. That's amazing. This is the opposite of what we've been taught. I mean, even Time Magazine said it's okay to eat butter, so we know it's true, right? I'm being very sarcastic. So a lot of the studies have been altered long ago, back in the 50s and 60s, and some of these current researchers that hold on to this cholesterol idea, they can't be wrong, so they have to be right. So what they'll do is they will maintain this viewpoint, and they won't look at the actual information. So they're very close-minded, and they have a lot of fixed ideas. But you'll have to prove it to yourself. Really, what increases the cholesterol is the refined sugars and the carbohydrates. Okay. Now, before I get into the summary of the endocrine system, I just want to kind of scan to see if there's. I always want to make sure that if people can hear me. And let me just see here. Okay. Okay, so I'm assuming you guys can see those slides. And I tell you what, I will send you the slides. How about that? Okay. Yeah, because it could be kind of small on your computer. I'll send you the slides. All right, I just want to see if there's any questions. Now, I'm going to open up something here so I can see your questions a little bit better. Okay. The book, okay, so people are asking me, what is the book called? The book is called The Cholesterol Myths. And yes, I can see the problem. It's so tiny, you can't even see it. So I'll actually, you can search this guy's name. I'll copy this into, let me just do this right now. Copy the guy's name right here. And so I just pasted it for everyone to see. And you can look them up later, okay? The point is that there's a lot of great substantial, credible, scientific people that are very sane that actually will show you the truth about the whole cholesterol, and you don't have to be freaked out about it. All right. Someone asked about what if I'm holding fluid? Okay, I'm going to talk about fluid retention. Absolutely. Let's see. Can you address menopause? We're going to touch on hot flashes, but we'll touch more on menopause as we go through this. Okay. How do bioidentical hormones work with hormone balance? Good question. Here's the problem with bioidentical hormones. I'm not against them. I just like to try everything we can before you go on bioidentical, because what's happening is you're taking hormones, you're going to feel better, but your glands are going to not have to work as hard, and you're going to slowly inactivate your glands, which means that you're going to need more and more hormone over time to the point where potentially it could stop working. So, that's just my viewpoint. So I'm not against you taking them as long as you can actually try to improve the gland function, because why don't we just fix the gland? There's a lot of things you can do primarily for the gland itself, and we will cover some of those items. All right, a lot of really good questions. Some questions that are not really related to what we're talking about, but I'll try to get to some of these if I can, okay? But very good questions. I'm going to save a lot of these questions too, because I can see that there's a lot of specific things that you guys want to know about that pertain to your bodies. And I'll actually try to incorporate that into the next seminar, okay? All right. Yeah, postmenopausal, I'm going to cover that whole thing. But let me just kind of give you a summary of what's going on, okay? With the endocrine system. Let me just pull this thing up here. And here we go. Okay, so let's start at the top. The hypothalamus. That's this little thing in the brain. It's about the size of a grape. Now, the hypothalamus is half nervous system and half gland. It's a bunch of small cells, groups of cells, all combined that have very specific functions. Like one little center would cause like your sex drive or your stress response. Another one would be fluid balance. Another one would be sustained wakefulness. Another one would be stimulating the gastrointestinal system, shivering, sweating, blood pressure, maternal aggression, protection. So a mother protecting their child, right? Feeding, leptin. That's the hormone that is involved with starvation and hunger and things like that. And the fat makes it. We'll get into that later. Lower blood pressure, thirst, raging, fighting, appetite, water control, and you actually have a clock in your brain. It's that little center has a name and called suprachiasmatic nuclei, Not that you need to know that, but that clock regulates the timing mechanism, and it syncs with the rotation of the Earth and the tides and the sun's light and darkness, and it's pretty cool. So if you have sleeping problems, there could be a problem with that area of the body. And then we have sex hormones, thermostat, heart rate. Well, this little nuclei that is right to my left right here, that's involved in hot flashes during menopause. So the same thing that controls the thermostat is the same thing that controls the heart rate. So that's why your heart rate kind of goes up. But the hypothalamus has all these pre-programmed things for the brain, and it's going to send the message down. It's kind of like the owner of the football team, or the CEO of a business. And this message that goes from the hypothalamus, there's several of them, and it goes right down to the pituitary. The pituitary is kind of like management. It's like the coach of the football team. He doesn't do the work necessarily, but he actually works through other people. He takes the message from the owner of the company or the owner of the football team, and he translates that to the workers, which are the glands. So the pituitary is the middleman that kind of determines what message goes where. And you got a front part and a back part of the pituitary, and it's the size of a pea. It's really small. So there's hormones for your thyroid, your adrenal, your ovary, your liver, your breast, even the kidney, ovary, testicle. And so all these messages go down from the pituitary. And basically, I want to kind of cover some of these hormones, okay, and give you a little summary right now. The first hormone I want to talk about is something called growth hormone. Yes, it does make you grow if you're a child. And yes, people buy it as an anti-aging hormone, and it's very expensive. Don't want to take it because it has major side effects if you take it externally, but it's an anti-aging hormone, and it helps proteins build and repair, and it helps you get lean body mass, and it's one of the major fat-burning hormones, okay? So it comes down from the pituitary, and it goes into the liver, and that's where it does its work. And really, growth hormone doesn't do all the work, but it triggers another hormone that does the work. And if you want to know the name of that hormone, it's called insulin-like growth factor number 1. It's IGF number 1, okay? Again, you don't really need to know the name. Just realize that IGF number 1 really is an extension of growth hormone, and they work together. And we'll be talking more about this when we get into like fat burning, but there's several things that trigger growth hormone, right? Especially if you want to lose weight. One is fasting, intermittent fasting. That's a real powerful trigger for growth hormone, and I'll cover that more later. Also, a small amount of protein will trigger growth hormone, not too much, small amount. And then sleep will trigger it, and intense exercise will trigger it. But there's other things that block it, like sugar, like stress, stress, things like that. Okay, now we got the thyroid hormone. So the pituitary sends a signal down to the thyroid, tells it what to do. But really, most of the thyroid hormone comes out as an inactive form. It's called T4. Now, the 4 and the 3 represent the number of iodine molecules on that hormone. So you got the T3 is 3 iodine, and T4 is 4 iodine. So, so 80% of the T4 is converted through the liver, and then 20% is converted through the kidney. And it's basically converted, it turns from T4 to T3, and now T3 is the active form of the thyroid hormone, and that's where it controls the metabolism, also your hair, nails, collagen, your skin, temperature, digestion, carbohydrate and fat metabolism. So the thyroid is important. We will be diving in deeper probably next week on the thyroid, but you just need to know basically what it does. And just right here, I want to tell you two things about the thyroid hormone. It's very rare to have a primary thyroid problem. It's usually secondary to a liver problem or an estrogen problem from the ovary, because most people have a problem with their lack of conversion, because either the gallbladder's blocked or missing, or they're constipated, or they have liver problems or fatty liver, and that's why the thyroid's not working. And so every time they take the thyroid hormone, they don't see any results because the cause is in the liver. The other one is estrogen, because estrogen has this thing where it can get stuck in your thyroid and block the thyroid and cause thyroid problems. So here's another indirect cause, and here you get pregnant and you get this massive dose of estrogen, and then boom, your thyroid shuts down. Well, you got to fix the estrogen. Don't worry about the thyroid. Okay, there's another gland called the parathyroid. Basically, it's just 4 tiny little glands around the thyroid gland, and that controls calcium. So when people have their thyroid removed, wow, if you have your thyroid removed, you better make sure you keep your parathyroid glands. Then we get to the adrenal glands. And I'm sure that if you watch my videos, I talk a lot about adrenal. The adrenal is unique in that it has an outside and an inside. The outside is all gland. The inside is all nerve tissue. So it's pretty cool. And so it has functions from anti-inflammatory effects to blood sugar control, to stress control, hydration control, blood pressure control, cholesterol control, and vitamin D control. So it does a lot. The gonads, that's the ovary and the testicles. So the ovaries basically create female characteristics. Curvier hips, thinner skin, higher voice, whereas testosterone gives the male characteristics. Facial hair, deeper voice, things like that. So the ovary controls the menstrual cycle through its hormones. It makes eggs. It controls fertility. Okay, whereas the testosterone helps produce the sperm, helps libido, bone and muscle influences, and vitality. Okay, then we got the pancreas. It controls blood sugars. So you have another part of the pancreas that releases enzymes to help digest food as well. So if your pancreas is dysfunctional, you're going to have a lot of digestive problems. And also diabetics have a lot of digestive problems because of the pancreas. You can't have a bad problem with the pancreas like insulin and have a real happy enzymes that come out and do all the great work of digesting. It's just when one goes down, they both go down. Okay. Now, before we get into this next topic, I want to make sure that I'm answering any questions, because we have to have, I want to actually have a two-way communication. So Karen says she has insomnia, sleep apnea. I sleep 4 hours a night. I stopped sleeping and up all night, fall asleep at 5, started to take supplements, not working. I now take bioidentical hormones, and I'm sleeping 4 hours but waking up. Okay. All right, so let me do this. Hold on one second. Okay. Okay, so let's just touch on the sleep right now, okay? The hormone that triggers sleep problems. Let's look at this book right here. This is an endocrine book right here. And there's a chapter here on the adrenal gland. Now, the adrenal gland is a gland on top of the kidney, and it controls stress. But look what it does, especially during menopause. Instead of getting a deep sleep, you get a light sleep. And that's because the adrenal gland is too high. It's like too many hormones from the adrenal. The adrenal is the backup gland to the ovary. So check this out. These are your adrenals. These are ovaries. So during menopause, the ovaries go in retirement, and the adrenal actually has to back up the ovary. It's the backup organ. So if your adrenals are stressed out during menopause, it's going to, and it's not going to back it up. So what's going to happen, it's going to stimulate something right here and send signals up to the brain in that little part that I showed you that controls temperature, and it's going to send surges into the body and cause hot flashes. However, this gland is going to stress out during menopause and be a little bit more energetic. And so the off switch is always on, because this is all adrenaline here. This is flight or fight. So it keeps your body in a constant stress mode. So you won't be able to turn off and sleep. There are various things that you can do nutritionally, activation-wise, and I'll show you some nutrition later. But this is the tool that can be gotten too, and I use this. It goes right on the back of the neck, and you lean back and you hit these 2 points that activate the sleep centers. That's one thing you can do. The other thing is you can do acupressure on the adrenal glands as well, and that can be learned in my little book here. Yeah, there's a book that you can get on the tool that shows you how to do the adrenals. So there are actions that you can do to help sleep, but the cause of it is the adrenal. Okay. All right, so I switched over the messages to all private, so only I can see them. So that way you guys can focus a little bit better. How about that? I think that will work out best. All right. But I can still see your messages. Don't worry, I'm going to record this, so that's not going to be a problem. Someone says, where can I get the tool? On the website, on my website, drberg.com. All right, so let's see here. Is there a test for pancreatic problems? Yes. Well, the first thing you want to test, you can indirectly test the pancreas by checking the blood sugars, and you can also do a test which I think is invaluable, and that would be an insulin test. You can also check enzyme tests, but I like to check the insulin because you might have normal blood sugars, but your insulin is high because you have a problem with insulin, and that is a situation. So I think a lot of people have a problem with insulin and they don't know it, and that's why I'm going to cover that today. Okay? So I'm going to cover a very important topic right now for you guys, and that is on this little thing called electrolytes. This is a very confusing topic. Electro is a Latin word for amber because in the ancient times they would take amber, which is resin from the pine tree, and they would rub it on fur, and it generates this little static electricity that you can take a feather and it sticks to it. So they call it electro. And then light is a Greek word for loose. So we have this kind of loose electrons that can be generated in the body. So let me just show you. I forgot to show you one thing here. I'll show you what electrolyte is. Okay, so we have some water, right? Simple water. And we have some salt, okay? So I'm just going to take some salt and I'm going to pour it in the water. Don't try this at home. I'm just kidding. I have a dry sense of humor. I'm just going to stir this up, okay? Okay? So it's dissolving. So the sodium chloride and the other minerals, and this is sea salt, this is Himalayan sea salt, are disconnecting. So now we don't have sodium chloride together, we have them sodium and chloride, okay? Now this fluid is now more electrically conductive, so it can conduct electricity. So electrolytes are minerals that are in a solution that conduct electricity and that can generate electricity, okay? So in your body, your cells are little batteries. Let's see here. So the cells use electrolytes to actually generate a lot of your electricity, and they have little tiny electrolyte, they're minerals. So you have sodium, you have potassium, you have calcium, you have magnesium, but the two big ones that do most of the work are sodium and potassium. Okay, sodium and potassium. So there's something called the sodium and potassium pump, and it's in the membrane of the cell on the outside. So the cell is kind of like just decides what goes in and out. The goal of this pump is to keep the sodium on the outside of the cell and keep the potassium on the inside of the cell. So when you keep two different electrolytes separated like that through a barrier, you can create electrical activity and charge. So these electrolytes, this little sodium potassium pump is there to generate energy for you and to create something called active transport, which is basically the ability to pull in nutrients, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, calcium, controls calcium absorption. So it also helps generate energy. So the potassium pump, you have like 800,000 to 30 million pumps per cell, and they're working hard. In fact, they use up 30% of your food energy. So they take a lot of energy to work. And so what happens is that those little electrolytes, that little pump is working hard to give you energy. So if you're fatigued, chances are you don't have enough of one of those electrolytes. So the reason I want to talk about electrolytes right now is because the biggest common problem that I see with people is that they have an electrolyte imbalance, and it is related to hormones, and I'll show you that, related to one simple mineral, okay? And that is, well, let me see if you can guess. Can anyone guess what mineral is the #1 deficient mineral, the mineral that you need massive amounts, but most people don't have in their body? Let's see if you can guess what it is. Okay, someone says iodine, magnesium, magnesium, potassium, calcium. Good. So if you said potassium, you are correct. Okay. Now, potassium is kind of like the most important electrolyte that you can possibly have. Why? Because you need, out of all the vitamins and minerals and everything, you need the most potassium out of anything at all. You need close to 5,000 milligrams per day of potassium. Now, why? Because it's essential for this little pump. So let me kind of get into what this means and how you can relate this to your own bodies. Okay, so this little sodium potassium pump allows nutrition, fluids to go in and out of the body, in and out of the cells. It allows electrical activity to go through your nervous system, and it allows the muscles to work correctly. This is what it looks like right here. So we got there's this constant exchange of these two minerals back and forth, and there's other pumps too, but this is like the main one that I believe it's the biggest problem out there right now, especially for blood pressure, fluid retention, and diabetes. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and you have a lot of these little pumps, and they create a lot of health for you if you actually have enough of the mineral. Now, sodium is really, really easy to get, and most people do not have a sodium deficiency. Okay, they have a potassium deficiency. So these little mineral generator pumps convert chemical energy into electrical energy. And believe it or not, 60% of your nerve cells use those sodium potassium pumps, and they basically need a lot of energy to produce that. So this explains why so many people have nerve fatigue and muscle fatigue. Okay, it's because of this. And also even the calcium that you use to help relax the muscles, it can't work if there's not enough potassium, if this pump is not working. Interesting, eh? So they control the energy in the cell, the muscle, the nerve, blood pressure, nutrients in the cell, fluid volume, calcium, and hydration. Okay? So let's take a look at all the things that can create a potassium deficiency, or the effects of a potassium deficiency. First of all, you're going to prevent calcium from being allowed for the muscles to relax. Well, guess what? The arteries are muscles. They have contractile tissue, and the arteries will start to get tense from a calcium problem, and that's why they, in high blood pressure, they have calcium channel blockers. So what's the solution? The solution is not to avoid salt like they're telling you, it's to add potassium to the diet, not in a pill form, but through food or a food concentrate, okay? I mean, look at this, 60% of the population of adults have high blood pressure. That is insane. It's so easy to fix. Also, potassium deficiencies, see, potassium is a relaxer of the body. It calms things down. And then if you're low in potassium, you're automatically going to have more sodium, so you're going to have more fluid because they work in a teeter-totter effect. Low nerve conduction, that's a weak heart, that's arrhythmias, that's skip beats. Any type of electrical problem with the heart, I recommend going with the potassium, sometimes magnesium as well. Low muscle strength. So this is interesting. Have you ever like walked up the stairs and your muscles kind of run out of endurance? That's a potassium deficiency. Now, I've talked about the adrenal causing that, but that's really, it boils down to potassium deficiency. So if you don't have endurance with your muscles, if you run out of gas and they cramp fast, or especially up incline, you feel heavy, it's a potassium deficiency. But the biggest symptom would be fatigue. People are tired because they don't have the electrical generators making the energy for the cell. So they're going to be tired because they don't have enough potassium. Okay? Hearing loss is a potassium deficiency because the hairs on the inner ear need potassium. You can even actually have lowered mood like depression from potassium or fluid retention. And this is another interesting thing too. Potassium is needed to generate stomach acids. So if you don't have potassium, it's really hard to release the acids in your stomach. Amazing, eh? Okay. Interesting. So here's a question I have for you. What foods are high in potassium? Does anyone know? Can you tell me? See if you can guess. Kale, bananas, avocados, green. Very good. Very good. You guys are smart. Yeah, very good. Yes. So, so potassium, the highest source of potassium is in beet tops, the leaves of beets. Okay. You have potassium in all the leafy greens. You have potassium in seaweed, in spinach. Yes, you have potassium in bananas, but the problem with bananas, it's too high in sugar. Okay. The problem with potassium in coconut water, it's too high in sugar. Celery actually is a little bit lower on potassium, but avocados are huge. Now, here's the next question. How many cups of salad do you need to fulfill your potassium requirement per day? Let's see if you guys know this. Okay, good. You guys, you're tracking with me. 7, 8, 10, 7 to 10. Very, very well done. Someone said 2. No, a little more than that. Okay, here's the next question. How many cups of salad or vegetable do you consume per day? I want to know if you're actually doing the 7 or 9 cups. Okay, someone said 0, 2, 6, 0, 10, not enough, not enough, 3, 2, 4. Okay, cool. All right, not a problem. But what I want to impress on you is the importance of why you're doing the salad, not just for potassium, but for all the nutrients, but if for your own energy level, prevent blood pressure, and you're going to see it's also going to prevent blood sugar problems and blood pressure problems, and it's going to give your cells the materials to build the sodium potassium pump, so you have more. Uh, Basically, I'm trying to find my cell phone battery here, my recharger. This is more rechargers, okay? So then you can actually start building things up. Now, let me show you my salad, okay, what I eat. You guys want to see that? Let's see here. Right there, good. All right. Oh, I forgot something. Why are we so deficient? Yes, you're not eating enough salad. That's true. Low dietary potassium. But it can also be because your adrenals are stressed out. It could also be because the thyroid is not working. Did you know the thyroid actually controls the production of those little sodium potassium pumps? So it could be you just don't have enough. So, but we're going to assume that you have enough, okay? Check this out. Drinking too much water also depletes your electrolytes. And this is interesting because people fight me on this. Even on live TV shows, they'll call in, a dietitian will say, "Oh yeah, you need to drink so much water." Yeah, you're just flushing all your potassium out. Drink when you're thirsty. Alcohol will deplete potassium. Surgery will deplete potassium. That's why when they do surgery, they give you a potassium IV because of the trauma on the adrenal. Just dumps all the potassium. Caffeine, a diuretic, diarrhea, vomiting, sweating, all will deplete potassium. Sugar will do it. Having insulin resistance, that's kind of a pre-diabetic state, will do it, because insulin triggers this little pump to push the sugar into the cell. So if you're missing potassium, and you have insulin resistance, oh my gosh, your cells are really, 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 really depleted, okay? So check this out. This is how many cups of salad you would need. This is how many avocados. This is how many bananas you would need, okay? But this is my salad. Now, I have an entire avocado on there. I have some tomatoes, I have peppers, and I have probably about 8 cups of salad, okay? And avocado is so heavy, it's weighting down the salad. This is a typical thing that I do twice a day. I have probably more salad than most people, most vegetarians, okay? Okay, so now we talked about potassium, but now the question is, what about hydration? Like your tissue hydration. Does water really hydrate you? No, it's the electrolytes that do it. You know, you need some water, but it's the electrolytes. So I want you guys to do a quick test to determine. And just so you know, I'm going to give you the slides. I'm going to give you the recording, because somehow I think when you're watching this live, it's kind of blocked. You're not able to see it all the time. Okay? So I will give you the slides. No worry about that. Okay, so this is what I want you to do with your back of your palm. I want you to pinch your skin like this. Pinch it good. And then I want you to let it go. And I want you to count how many seconds it takes to disappear back into your hand. Okay? Go ahead and do that right now. Pinch your back of your skin and just let it go down. Let's see here. Like, do this right here. And count how long it takes to go back into your body. It should be within less than 1 second. If it's there 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, it stays there, you have a serious electrolyte problem. Okay? You have a serious electrolyte problem, and your tissues are completely dehydrated. Okay? The way we're going to fix that is you're going to have a lot more potassium. And what that's going to do with your skin, like I'm 51 years old. I know a lot of 51-year-olds that look old, I think because they need more salad. Because your skin, the hydration, the potassium, the electrolytes are essential for healthy skin. So if you have a problem with that, just work on that, and you can keep testing that to have more hydration into the tissues. Okay? Let me just make sure I'm answering any other questions right here. Let's see here. Okay. All right, awesome. Now, let me go back to the salad thing. All right. Okay, that's my salad. The other thing that I take is I take wheatgrass juice powder. Now, let me just explain something. I don't know if you guys saw my last video that I did with my wife on wheatgrass. It's kind of comical. You should check it out. You can go to my YouTube and just check for wheatgrass, the most recent one. But I want to show you something here. I just want to show you something on wheatgrass. This is kind of what I take. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you can't really see that. Let me see. This is some seriously dark green, aromatic, raw. Nothing's heated over 106 degrees. The wheatgrass juice is grown on ancient seabeds in Utah, which is basically an old ocean floor. So it pulls in all the trace minerals. But this is not a wheatgrass powder. It's a wheatgrass juice powder, and a lot of you are already taking it. And so what you do is you mix this with water. And I take probably 2 teaspoons a day. That's it. You don't need more. And for energy, if I don't take this, I'm not as energetic. And it's really the potassium in here, because 1 teaspoon is equivalent to a tray 17 by 17 inches of wheatgrass. So you're getting a food base. Now, it's just like extra. I'm doing enough salad where I probably don't need that, but this gives me a lot of micro concentrated greens and a lot of other nutrition. But mainly, I think it's the electrolyte balance that helps me the most, because it builds up my sodium-potassium pump, what allows everything to go through. So the people that I have on that are starting to notice more and more energy. But the point is that people that are fatigued, 1 for 1, you ask them, how much salad are you doing? How much green are you doing? How much potassium? It's usually like small amounts. If you go buy potassium, which I never agree on or recommend, it comes in 90 milligram tablets. You need 4,700 milligrams. You'd have to have a whole bottle of that stuff. So it's not practical to buy pills of potassium. Plus, this is the complex that, like, it's a whole complex of nutrients that you can take. But this is, I want to show you right here. This is the adrenal. The adrenal gland causes potassium loss. Okay? So the adrenals, stress, deplete your potassium hormonally. Insulin depletes your potassium. So by having enough potassium in your bloodstream, you can actually improve the adrenals. You can improve insulin. So the more stress, the more potassium you take to lower stress and calm the adrenals down. When you're stressed, you deplete potassium. When you eat sugar and you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, you deplete potassium. So you can imagine we're dealing with the mineral this is something that, and the reason I'm spending more time, it's so common and it's so easy to fix. And almost everyone they see has the problem, and then you fix it and they feel so much better, okay? So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that is something that you want to think about and start increasing your potassium. And it gives you a reason to start eating more salads, okay? Someone asks, how can I get it? In my seminars, I always give people a little discount on products. So at the end of the webinar, well, in fact, let me just post it right now, just so you can have that. Yeah. So if you wanted to get some wheatgrass, you get a discount, 10% off, but you also get free shipping. So you have to buy 3, and it's good for 24 hours, and you can order it, and there's a coupon code in there that when you press the button, and you could basically get more discounts off than you could normally get, and there's no shipping. In the US, I can't ship to anything out of the US, though, for free shipping, unfortunately. I'm sorry. So that's a little discount there. Okay, so now, let me show you something. Not now, but later, watch that video on wheatgrass, because I try to make it entertaining. Okay, so adrenal. The adrenal gland produces 3 main hormones. One is called cortisol. That's a stress hormone. The other one is controls minerals. It's called aldosterone, and potassium and salt. And the other one is called androgens, which is like a testosterone. So those are the 3 main hormones. We're going to talk about cortisol in this presentation. Okay. When you have a problem with cortisol, you have blood sugar problems. You get a buffalo hump. You get belly fat, muscle weakness, low vitamin D levels, cataracts, bone loss, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, memory problems, which I'll come back. I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit, because I have some really hot stuff on memory that you have to, if you have any type of people in your family of dementia, you have to stay tuned for that. Acne, low tolerance to stress, vitiligo, that's a loss of a pigment on the skin. It's like a little white patches. Inflammation, cramps in the calves, heel spurs, allergies, need for coffee, acid reflux, high blood sugar, immune weakness, round face, anxiety. So these are just all the indicators of adrenal problems. Now, here's the point that I want to talk about. A lot of people have diabetes. A lot of people have high insulin, and they don't even know it. And their diet isn't better. They're eating better, but they still have the problem. And I want to show you why. Okay, so here's my favorite book again. The adrenal increases insulin because it increases sugar, because for quick energy. So you could become a diabetic by having an adrenal problem. Interesting. You can have blood sugar problems by having stress. In fact, if you're a diabetic and you go through stress, your blood sugar goes out of control. Okay, so now that's a effect. So how do you know that you have that? If you clean up your diet and the diabetes doesn't clear up, then we know the adrenal is involved. So so let me show you this right here. So we have high cortisol. That's from the adrenal. So that's activated by stress. Okay? And then that's going to increase glucose. Okay, that's sugar. Because your body makes, your liver makes it. And now we're going to increase insulin. Now, insulin is a hormone that prevents any chance of burning fat. It's a fat-making hormone. It makes fat. And it also, if it's too high over a long period of time, it becomes insulin resistant. And I have to just cover this because I would say the majority of people that I see have this and they don't even know they have it. And they go through menopause, they get a belly fat, and then they start getting a liver problem, and then they get insulin resistance, because that can, see, if you have any of the fat in the belly that you have is really insulin. Yes, it's coming from cortisol, but it's cortisol is activating insulin, causing the belly fat. So how do you know if you have too much insulin? Just look at your belly. That's the reason. So check this out. We have the liver. We have the pancreas. Okay, the liver is 100 times bigger than the pancreas. Pancreas makes insulin. But over a period of time, you get insulin resistance, and the receptors for insulin get blocked. Okay, so they can't absorb it. So now the insulin doesn't get through. So this is high insulin right here. So now in the liver, we have low insulin. Okay, because it's not going in there. In the blood, we have low insulin. So if you have low insulin in the blood, guess what's going to happen to the blood sugar? It's going to go up. So we get high sugar. That's diabetes. Because insulin is supposed to lower sugar, but it's not there because it's being blocked. It's called insulin resistance. And this is being created by having too much insulin over a long period of time. Make sense? Now, so now you can have symptoms of a low insulin and high insulin, all right, at the same time. So you can't go without skipping a meal without feeling weird, tired. You have blood sugar problems where you feel dizzy sometimes. Your head hurts. You crave sweets. You're tired after you eat sometimes. You're not satisfied after you eat. This is insulin resistance. I'm going to show you how to fix it. I'm going to show you how to get rid of the belly fat too. So a lot of you have heard of the glycemic index, where basically you eat sugar and it activates insulin, right? And so you know you need to have a low carb diet. Okay? But there's an insulin index. And there's a couple things that trigger the insulin index. One is protein, not any kind of protein, low-fat protein. So the more the low-fat protein, the more the insulin goes up. So whey protein powder is very high trigger for insulin index. So you go to the grocery store and you look at the wall of all these protein bars. They all have either soy protein isolates or whey protein. It's all very lean, low-fat protein and sugar. It's a deadly combination, because if you add sugar to this, you're really going to spike it. But there's really only one food that doesn't activate insulin: fat. So what you want to do is you want to include more fat, and you want to make sure your meat that you eat or the protein is not too lean. Get the fattier piece of something. Don't worry about the low-fat anything. Okay? If you have more fattier food, you keep the insulin low. The goal is to heal the system. Now, I talked about growth hormone, and that intermittent fasting also helps. You lose weight, but it also, intermittent fasting helps the insulin, because when you don't eat, you don't trigger insulin, because every time you eat, your insulin goes up a little bit. So what we want to do is we don't want to do snacks in between the meal. If you're not hungry for breakfast, you don't want to consume a breakfast. Just keep going, because the breakfast that your body is eating is your belly. That's what we want it to eat, right? So if we basically don't raise insulin so much, if we eat infrequent and maybe have 2 meals or 3 meals a day with no snacks, you're going to heal the insulin. You're going to heal the belly fat. It's going to go down dramatically. But the question is, how are you going to go from one meal to the next without snacking? You're going to increase more fat with the meal. You don't have to go crazy, but just start increasing it slowly to the point where you can go longer and longer and longer without eating. What kind of fat do I eat? I do eat bacon. I also have brie cheese. I don't have low-fat cheese. I have brie cheese. I have avocados. I have nuts, olives, peanut butter. I have little treats. I should probably show you what I have in the freezer. I have these chocolate no sugar seeds. They're really good. So this is how you heal this. There's other things you can do as well. You can have apple cider vinegar with lemon. A teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, or I like to do 2 tablespoons in water with a little lemon, and then I drink that with each meal. Okay. Now, for those of you that are like addicted to soda, I want to just show you something that I also get for my kids. It's called Zevia, and this is a soda. They have different flavors, and it's flavored with stevia. I love it. It's carbonated. There's no sugar in this. It tastes like a soda. So there are things you can do. Okay. So let me show you some more on that right now. So insulin pulls the sugar out, and here's the thing. When the insulin is spiked, you will not burn fat. I'm sorry, you won't burn fat. In fact, burning fat is called ketosis. You're in ketosis. All it takes is a tiny bit of the wrong food, like sugar, to completely knock you completely out of ketosis. It's harder to get into ketosis, and it's easy to get out if you actually have these foods, refined sugars or juices and things like that. But you'll find that over about 3 days to a week, your cravings and your hunger will go down, down, down. That means the insulin is working. Okay. Did you know that insulin also messes with your bladder? Bedwetting, leakage of urine through coughing, sneezing, exercise. Even men that think they have a prostate problem, it's really an insulin problem. They're getting up all night long. Even women that have leaky bladders, it has to do with insulin. This is cool because you can actually handle your bladder problem if you fix insulin. All right, so now this gets really interesting. I want to mention vitamin B1 deficiency. Now, vitamin B1 is probably equivalent to potassium in fixing blood sugar problems, fixing adrenal stress, because vitamin B1 is probably one of the most unique vitamins that I've ever learned about. It acts as a helper to help break down sugar. So it's involved in carbohydrate metabolism. Without B1, you won't break down sugar that well, and you'll have sugar problems. Interestingly, the biggest symptom of B1 is dementia and memory loss. Okay? Because without B1, your brain actually atrophies. You get nerve damage in the feet and the hands with diabetes, and that's called peripheral neuropathy. That can be totally corrected, by the way. That's why, because of the B1 deficiency. Loss of nightmares is a classic B1 deficiency. Very vivid dreams, edema, irregular heartbeats, increased heart rates, heart enlargement. So the cardiovascular and the brain and the nervous system is the B1. Here's the thing. When you go through stress, you deplete B1, and you also deplete potassium. When you eat a lot of sugar, you deplete B1 and potassium. So the causes of low B1 are high dietary sugar, or diabetes, or stress. White rice. White rice, they polish the rice, they take off all the B vitamins and the shell, and they leave you with this white rice. If you eat a lot of white rice, you will become deficient in B1, big time. So diabetes can cause a deficiency of B1, alcohol, caffeine. So B1 is a really good thing to consume, and that's why I put it in my adrenal formula. But here's the problem with B1. If you have B1 and you try to buy it, most of the time it's synthetic. It's really hard to find a food-based natural B1. That's what I put in this product. Over 50% of this ingredient are very specific natural food-based B vitamins to help heal a lot of the adrenal problems. So one of the indications for taking this would be feeling of stress, buildup of anxiety, can't relax, nervous tension, excessive thinking. So we use that to actually help the adrenal. So you also Another way that you want to handle the B vitamins is you want to make sure you avoid eating sugar. So then you won't become deficient. So now I'm going to just show you, and I'll send you this eating plan that I'm going to recommend. This is what I want all of you to start eating. And again, you can skip the breakfast. Not a problem if you're not hungry. But I just wanted to show you that we don't want to have any snacking in between the meals. It's a myth that you need a meal to stimulate your metabolism. You don't. So here we have eggs, avocado. Again, this is samples of foods that if you don't like them, you don't have to eat them. Just pick what you like. But look at, I have eggs and bacon, avocado. I have apple cider vinegar and lemon drink. You can do a hamburger patty or even a steak. You can do sardines. You can do brie cheese as a little fat for breakfast to get you to go from breakfast to lunch without being terribly hungry. Now look at, when we get into the lunch, this is where we need our salad, our vegetable, large quantities. Eat the salad first, then the protein. Then you need a little bit of fat. We have the brie cheese, we have peanut butter, olives, avocado, nuts. Pecans are really, really low on the insulin scale. Okay? And then we have fish. And all the people who are on this webinar, I'm going to send you the insulin index if you guys want it. Okay? If you really want it, I'll send it to you. Okay? I'll put it in the notes. So look at, we have this drink again, we have this lunch, and now the question is, did you have enough fat to be able to go from lunch to dinner without needing for snacks? If you did, great. If you didn't, add more fat the next time. The fat is there to get you to go from one meal to the next. Now, if you're thinking in your mind, oh my gosh, I might actually have too many calories, well, you have to realize that you're not going to lose weight unless insulin is healed. And if you do this, you're going to be less hungry and you may need just 2 meals a day. Now, the key with this whole thing is the vegetable and the potassium, because I don't know if I told you this yet, but ketosis or fat burning also depletes your potassium. So that's why I always recommend the vegetables, because if you look up the ketosis diet and you eat all this fat, they don't really recommend enough vegetables. So you end up with all these like reactions and body problems, and you're doing it unhealthily because you're dumping all this fat into the liver. So you have to keep your vegetables very, very high. If you don't like vegetables, then you're going to have to blend them, maybe with a little bit of stevia or something like that, and then you can actually drink your vegetables. So you can do kale or spinach. Now for dinner, we have the salad, we have protein, and more fat again, right? Now, what I do, I have to have breakfast. I have to have a lunch, but I don't really have to have a dinner. I didn't have anything so far, and it's 9 o'clock right now. I might snack a little bit, but I don't really eat anything, and I don't have any snacks other than these 3 meals or 2 meals a day, okay? I cover the hot flashes. That's really an adrenal, but I didn't tell you what nutritional thing that I use for that. I use what's called the ovary support, simply because it has adrenal extract and it has ovary and uterus and pituitary. That seems to be the key factor to turn off hot flashes. And you can take this before bed, and 3 of those, and you won't have a hot flash. Now, on really bad cases of a hot flash that that need more support, I will use cortisol support. Now, what is cortisol support? This is not something for everyone. It's not for everyone. It's only for people that are severely burnt out, people that have severe hot flashes, severe asthma, bad allergies, and terrible inflammation. That's what this really just works like, I mean, like magic. So if you have chronic autoimmune stuff or chronic arthritis or joint stuff or pain, or this is what I would recommend. And it works great on hot flashes. So it's for the real burnt out case, because it's really powerful, it's very strong, and it's not for everyone. So I just wanted to mention that. There's 2 types of adrenal though. There's high adrenal and low adrenal. Now, the interesting thing, when you have low adrenal, you're very, very thin and you're tan, but you're very sick. You have a lot of inflammation. So with high adrenal problems, you start getting all sorts of issues with blood pressure, cholesterol, belly fat, liver fat, sleeping problems, etc. And again, because the endocrine system is so broad, I had to kind of just chunk away at the adrenal, but we're going to be talking about the adrenal more in the other two seminars. Okay, so I just want to leave off with this little discount, but there's another one that for those of you that already have the wheatgrass and you wanted to do some other products, I have another kit, and you can do what you want, but this is a new kit that I put together that has the adrenal night formula, which helps sleeping, and it has adrenal day formula together, and it also has the wheatgrass in it as well, and it has my book and apple cider vinegar plus. I think another real common thing that I didn't talk about is the stomach pH. If your stomach does not have enough pH and it's too alkaline, you will get heartburn or GERD. So let me just go ahead and add this right here. Yeah, so GERD, acid reflux, bloating is really a lack of stomach acid. So as you age, you lose the stomach acid and your stomach can't digest. So one of the things that I recommend is something to acidify the stomach. In the past, I recommended gallbladder support, which is awesome, but I recommend the apple cider vinegar before you do the gallbladder because gallbladder is alkaline. And if you try to fix the stomach and you don't have enough acid, you might neutralize the acid a little bit more. So I always like to acidify the stomach first, make the person really digest better here. When the pH is really good, your stomach is good, you can start absorbing proteins and minerals. So the apple cider vinegar plus is a combination of, like one pill is a half a cup of apple cider vinegar and a combination of betaine hydrochloride in one little pill. An average person needs like 3 with a meal, but this is a really good, this is my latest combination that I've been using with great success. So you would take gallbladder with meals, the wheatgrass juice, the adrenal, and it also comes with a really cool bonus that you can have, create your own meals, exercise programs. I give you tools to pull out stress. It's an online program, and then my book with some, I show you also the additional changes that occur that from the recent edition, which I'm working on. So you'll get that as well. But I wanted to give you a little discount for those people who wanted to get a kit and don't have those already. Okay, and it's discounted, and there's free shipping as well if you're in the U.S. Okay. Now, some questions. Does apple cider vinegar influence positively on the blood pH too? Absolutely. The thing about the adrenal is the adrenal causes alkalosis. That means it causes your body to become too alkaline. That's why you get acid reflux. So by acidifying the stomach, you really get the pH in, you get the potassium in, and your system starts kind of settling in there. And these are the things that I'm finding most common with most people, is that they have pH problems, they can't digest. And someone says, does it contain pepsin? No. The acidifiers in there will activate your own body to make pepsin. I do have pepsin in my gallbladder formula, and pepsin is an enzyme, a very powerful protein enzyme. How much do you take? You take about 2 to 3 with the meal, okay? But I also, if you get the kit, I explain how to take it. Let's see. All right, so got your book, Kindle edition. All right, that's cool. Does it contain hydrochloric acid? Yes. The betaine hydrochloric, yes, it contains something called betaine hydrochloride, and then in water, the betaine separates from the hydrochloric, so you actually have the hydrochloric acid in there. It's a really good stomach acidifier, and I use it a lot, and I personally take it as well. Okay, cool. All right, so someone says no hot flashes. Should I take the ovary? No. If you don't have hot flashes, oh, your bladder's waking you up. Yes, yes. If you have a bladder problem, I would take the ovary stuff. So ovary stuff is anything for female reproductive problems. If you're menopausal, it's not just for hot flashes. It's for menstrual problems, heavy periods, and things like that. Um, but again, if you have a severe menopausal stuff, we do the cortisol, but not necessarily for everyone. Can I take your gallbladder and the HCl together? No. What you want to do is you want to take the acidifiers, the apple cider vinegar plus before the meal. Take gallbladder after the meal. Okay, so that way your digestion is perfect. Would adrenal problems cause low energy for someone trying to go in keto? Yes, because the adrenal spikes cortisol. So with the adrenal, what we do is we try to support the adrenal, lower the cortisol, help you sleep at night, reduce stress during the day. Add the potassium, okay, to help calm things. Whether you do salads or apple cider vinegar or the wheatgrass, that's fine. But those combinations calm the nervous system, make you stronger, give you more endurance, you have more energy, and you start healing. It's a really good combination. We're going to be talking about polycystic ovarian syndrome next week for sure. Let's see. My husband was low testosterone. Yes, we're going to talk about testosterone next. For testosterone, we want to heal the liver. There's a product called the cruciferous food. That's the best thing for the liver function. To improve the liver function, and testosterone goes up. Also, you want to work on sleep as well. Can you show the wheatgrass discount again? Yeah, I can show that right here. Wheatgrass. Okay, there's a wheatgrass link. How long are the discounts for? For 24 hours. Okay, you can get them, in the future, but I'm giving you the most discount and the free shipping if you get it within the day. Just as an incentive, also, I do this on the webinars, kind of give people a little extra. What do you suggest without a gallbladder? You need the apple cider vinegar plus product, because that will allow the liver to produce more bile, and then you're going to also, about a week after that, you're going to need the gallbladder formula. And I'm completely out of that right now, but when I get that in, take it, because that will give you bile to help you digest fats. So the combination, without a gallbladder, you don't have the sac, so you're going to be bile deficient. So you're going to need bile, because if you don't, your vision's going to go bad eventually, because you don't have vitamin A. The skin goes bad, vitamin D deficiencies, vitamin K2 deficiencies, vitamin E deficiencies. Other than that, you're perfectly fine. I have slightly elevated estrogen and testosterone. What would cause that? We are going to get into, Rachel, we're going to get into that topic next week. You're going to love it. I'm going to show you a lot of great techniques. Hair loss, we're going to cover that as well. Hair loss, one thing that I use for that is I use trace minerals, my liquid trace minerals. I have a guy that buys a case of the liquid plant-based trace minerals every month. I'm like, what are you doing with this? He goes, I sell it to all my coworkers because my hair, my nails, my skin, it really gets the hair back. But if you have high levels of adrenal hormone, that can also cause hair problems too. Male pattern baldness, alopecia, things like that. How much good fat to eat every day? It really depends on your digestion. Go light and start increasing it gradiently. The goal is not to eat a lot of fat. The goal is to eat enough fat to go from one meal to the next. So it's adjustable. Just play around with it. It's whatever you need. At first, when you're healing insulin, you're going to need more. But then as you heal it, you'll need less, because your system is more efficient and you're burning your own fat. I'm telling you, if you follow these principles, you can, if not get rid of diabetes, improve it tremendously. You can get tremendous energy from these recommendations as well. The workout that I'm doing right now, I'm lifting logs this big around, this tall, dead from the ground, 20 of them, moving them across my yard and then moving them back every night, because that's like my body craves like lifting, chopping wood. It just loves it. So I sleep like a baby when I do that. What do you do for loss of menstrual cycle? I would take I would do two things. I would take the ovary support formula for sure, and I would also add the sea kelp because you need iodine. Okay, those are the two things that I would recommend. And then if that doesn't fully handle it, email us and I'll let you know what else to do because there's several other things you can do. Okay. If you heal the adrenals, can you reverse long-term baldness? It really depends if it's genetic. I've had people completely bald, get their hair back. It's really a 50-50 chance. I don't know. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Period changes on a ketogenic diet. Not if you're doing enough vegetable and you're doing enough nutrient, because when you go on a ketogenic diet, you can lose potassium and then calcium. So you have to put these electrolytes back as well. Is 3 eggs okay for women? Absolutely. Your body just will make less cholesterol. Let's see, I'm eating a ton of salad, no grains, small portions of protein, good fats, avocado, turkey, but haven't lost any belly at all. I've been eating this way for 3 weeks. Any advice? So what I want to recommend is make sure you're not snacking. Make sure there's no hidden carbs, no sugars, no grains. Make sure your digestion is good. And so here's the thing. If I think it's Renee, if you're doing all the right things and you're not losing weight in your belly, I have a question. Are you losing any, or let's say you're not losing any weight. Are you losing any belly fat? A lot of people will lose size, but not weight. So check on that. Check your size. If you're still not losing weight and you're eating when you're not hungry, like 3 meals a day, then do go to 2 meals. Then add exercise. But I would also look at, are you sleeping? Are you sleeping okay? Do you have any other body health problems? Do you have any digestive problems? Do you have any hot flashes? Do you have any bad menstrual periods? Those are the things that we want to fix to take your metabolism up to the next level. So there's other things to look at. How much trace minerals? 1 dropper full a day is plenty. What do you do to clear cataracts? That basically is B1. I would do the Adrenal Day formula. If those vegetables are not available in India, then try to find a comparable one. Maybe you do spinach. If you could tell us how much calcium magnesium we need, not to overdo it. Well, the calcium magnesium, you got to be careful on that because a lot of people have too much calcium and they need more of the vitamin D3 and the K2 to mobilize the calcium. So I only take calcium magnesium if my calves are tight or cramping. Other than that, I get my calcium magnesium from a little bit of cheese. Okay. But some people need it to sleep, but you don't need as much as you think. Oh, wow. Listen, I want to thank all of you for your attention, your questions, your interest. I know I kept going an hour and a half. I only meant to do this an hour, but I'm going to be doing this next Wednesday. I'm going to send you guys the notes tomorrow morning. Okay. Next Wednesday, we're going to do another seminar, and the following Wednesday, we'll do another seminar. I'm taking all your questions, and I'm going to include those into the seminars. Okay. So don't feel like you couldn't, get that data by feeling that I didn't answer all your questions. I will make sure that we try to get as many of these as well. Okay, because you just a lot of questions and we're running out of time. But I want to thank you all for your attention and your wonderful comments and your questions. Okay, and I hope you learned something. I want to give you the most important stuff, and go ahead and start applying this immediately. If you want some of the kits, go ahead and take advantage of it. I'll send you the links as well again. But thank you and have a great evening. But probably, and if you're in another part of the world, it's morning. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.